Hey, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center, and today we're talking about the Iron Pen Contest. I'm super excited about it. It's one of my favorite times of year, and it starts tomorrow. For folks who are unfamiliar with the web series that we're presenting to you here today, Write More Light, we here's how it goes. You can see M&Ms behind me. That's fun. Um, I am very excited and lucky to have a guest with me here today. We're going to be in conversation for a little while, and then after that, I will give updates on the Midwest Writing Center. But the most important thing that you get out of this today is that you should register for the Iron Pen Contest. So with no further ado, my guest today is Hannah Scott-Ravikumar. Hannah is a writer, former bookseller, and historian from Iowa City. She just completed her master's in history from Queen's University, Belfast. She writes mainly historical fiction and magical realism and is currently based in St. Louis with her grumpy 20-year-old cat. You can find her on Instagram. I'll throw this in the comments at Hannah SR Writer. Hannah, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So the thing that makes you relevant to our segment today, not that you're not always relevant in my heart,
Clearly.
is that you were oops, sorry about that. You placed in Iron Pen a couple of years back, and you are this year's fiction judge. So you have some perspective on both sides of this. And presumably you liked it enough to come back. You weren't saying that we should go kick dust. So welcome back to the Writing Center world and to Iron Pen. Can you talk a little bit about you know what, actually, we're gonna rewind just a wee smidge, and I'm going to put up the rules on my screen for Iron Pen. For folks who don't know what Iron Pen is, they see me posting about it and they don't read the caption. It's okay, I feel you. I only want images as well. Um, Iron Pen is a 24-hour writing contest that the Midwest Writing Center hosts every February. Um, we, oops, sorry. We drop a prompt at 5 p.m. on Friday. That's tomorrow. That's Central Time. So it'll be 6 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. That'll be 3 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. And then submissions close. You have to have your writing sent back, turned in at 5 p.m. on Saturday, again, Central Time. We can't announce the prompt until it's time for the prompt to be announced. That'll be on our socials, it'll be on our website, and it'll be in your inbox if you've registered. If you are waiting to decide if the prompt speaks to you, that's fine. You can register late. Costs $10 to enter, but everyone who registers will have a chance to win full tuition to the Collins Writers Conference, which is over a $400 value. And that's a drawing out of a hat. Literally, we use a hat. First place winners will receive $50 and a medal, a really heavy duty medal. I think I posted a picture of that yesterday if you wanted to look at what that looks like. And personally, I think it's really fun and cool and generative because it's very low pressure. You can do any genre of your choice. We say fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. So choose, whatever feels like it makes the most sense to you. But no matter what, it's real low pressure and you've written something. So that's what I think is special about it. Hannah, what inspired you to register for the Iron Pen contest when you first registered?
So partially you were the one who informed me about it, and I thought that sounds like so much fun. And I've never done anything relating to prompts before. Really, I've always found them a little difficult. So I thought this will be a really fun challenge, and I have a firm deadline, so that way I don't have too much time to second guess myself, because that is one of my biggest problems with prompts is I constantly rewrite and second guess myself. But 24 hours, you don't have time to do that. And when I first registered, it was, I think, the day that the contest started or the day before. And so all I was doing was at like 4:59, 5 p.m. refreshing my email until I got the prompt. And I had my little blank Word document open, ready to go. It was very exciting.
I know. So I've done the contest a few times. I'm not eligible now. Sometimes I we'll try. But because I'm not eligible, the deadline isn't real in my head. So it goes a lot less well for me. That said, I usually don't start till the next day when I've done it. I'm like, okay, well, this is a crazy prompt because they're always pretty wild. I have to marinate on this. And then, you know what, whatever you write in 5 hours, 4 hours, is kind of the point that it's not going to be perfect. No one's is going to be perfect. So like relatively level playing field, I think. I mean, how do you feel about the piece that came out of that?
I felt really good. So the first time I wrote like a response to the prompt, I ended up completely redoing it because I wrote it in like 2 hours and I thought I actually don't like this and I'm going to start over. And the one that I ended up with was very much more of a fairy tale vibe, and I really liked the way the story went. And I also liked that because it was 24 hours, I didn't have to figure out what happened next, but it ended still on a very open note. That the story that I wrote was about a girl who finds a talking key, and the key leads her to this door that she can open, and it ends with the girl opening the door. And I thought, see, if this was a long story, I would have to figure out where that door goes, but I don't have to. And it it felt very fun to be able to explore the moments before you enter a different world and what that feels like. So I really enjoyed writing that story. And I haven't actually looked at it much since I did Iron Pen, but I do kind of like to look back on it fondly and say, oh, that was a really fun way to explore a magical world that is still very similar to our own without having to actually work on what maybe that magical world looks like, but rather how magic can permeate our own world when you know that it's there.
Are you a big world builder?
Sometimes I like to world build after the fact. So I'll write stories and then think, well, that actually doesn't make sense. I maybe should really work on how that fits into the general plot and the general story. And then I will go back, and I mean, documents full of just what does this world look like? Where is it happening? How does this magic affect this world? And how is it working? Sometimes, because I write a lot of historical fiction, that doesn't come into play, but especially with my latest work in progress, it's very much a magical realism story. And I thought so I've done a lot of world building with that in terms of how this place actually operates. And yet, there are some questions that I will never know the answer to, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think I mean the reason I asked is because I do think that that deadline sort of forces us to it's kind of a luxury taking up as much space as we want to in world building or in asking ourselves questions about the universe or the characters of stories. And this, I feel like, forces the action. I know, I have won and I have been a judge, and I have also just not placed at all. I've done it a few times. It doesn't, so many things are different every time, which is fun. Um, but it just really, you see a lot of different results, a lot of times in nonfiction, I've seen folks who are really musing on the prompt, and sometimes that goes really well, and sometimes it doesn't go so well. And sometimes you can see, oh, this is the moment where they got the inspiration from the prompt. Um, we have a rubric as judges, and I can't remember it off the top of my head entirely, but it's 3 or 4 things that you're looking at. One is really like, did this piece just blow your socks off? And one is, can you tell how it relates to the prompt? And those are all I can really remember, and obviously the most important ones, because you can have a really great piece that you can't tell how it relates to the prompt, and you're not required to put the prompt into the piece or use the prompt as a title or an epigraph. I I confuse epigraph and epitaph all the time.
I've never known the difference, and at this point, it's too late to ask, you know?
One is the writing on on a gravestone, and one is the writing before your story or poem or whatever. So
I want to say epitaph is the gravestone one.
epitaph is the gravestone, but it's still scary every time I try to say epigraph. I'm like, did I just make this real dark? Anyway, so I feel like I've maybe it starts to get scary when you say that you need to know how the prompt is relevant. But it's not that serious. If the piece is good, the piece is good. And if the prompt is good, then it will, and that's our goal most of the time. If the prompt is good, it will appeal to your imagination. I will say I have not done well in fiction when I've registered in fiction, and I have done well in nonfiction. The only time I did nonfiction is the time I won. And I have revisited that piece, but I can't figure out what to do with it. And I'm a little mad. So people who place are offered publication in one of our online journals. And I'm mad now that I didn't accept that, because I was like, no, I'm going to make this piece really good. I'm going to edit it. It's going to be longer. And now I'm just like, no, I am not. Did you accept publication?
I think I don't think I did actually, because I think what I wanted to do was turn that into a full story because I'm an idiot. And
No, I had the same. I was like, no, this is gonna be really good, and it's gonna change, and it's gonna be long, and I'm gonna explore the topic.
yeah, because when I wrote that piece, I thought, okay, this is the first chapter. This is how I do it. And then I started thinking, okay, now she goes through the door. Now what happens? And I started trying to work on a longer piece. And then I just went, I don't want to do that, actually. I should have just
Said yes.
just left it. Just left it.
And also,
that
you can do both.
exactly. Yeah, you can do both. Do both, please.
Please do both.
And one of the things that I love about Iron Pen is that the prompt really, not only does it like make you think about stories in a certain way, but it also gets you to kind of write a complete story and just leave it. And the things that I have written because of Iron Pen have been really good, actually. And you wouldn't think, oh, it's only 24 hours. It can't be that good. But I've really liked what I've written and have wanted to revisit those worlds and have wanted to make them longer and make them really, really good. And so I think there is no part of it that is wasted, you know?
I love that. Oh, yeah. And there's so we try to, the prompt is always something that is at least very hard to Google, or whatever your favorite search engine is. But we will tell you after the fact where the prompt came from. And that has also led me to some really, really great readings. The first time I did Iron Pen, it was a quote from what has become my favorite poem by Philip Levine. And I discovered like all my favorite poets because of Philip Levine. The poem is called You Can Have It. It's incredible. I wrote an after poem to it, and I'm not someone who writes poetry. So really, really killer. Cool. I think so. I haven't participated since I've been employed, and I'm on my 6th anniversary this month.
Yay.
Yes, thank you. So it's been some time, but I think that I have almost always pursued, if not bought, the work by whoever it is that inspired us for the prompt, which is also really cool because it's just sort of automatically expanding your horizon, whether you are looking for it to or not. You don't have to be me and be like, okay, well, let's read Philip Levine now. But if, you know, you are still sort of accidentally exposed to his work. I was going to say revealed to his work. Opposite of that.
The work is revealed to you.
Yes, it's that. Have you participated more than once?
I have. I did. So I placed one year and then got an honorary mention, I think a couple years later. And both times I've really enjoyed the process. And one of the things that I really loved about the prompts as well was how different they were and how interesting I found like my thought process after reading those prompts, because you kind of the second time I participated, I felt like I was not in a very creative space. I was in a bit of a writer's block month, and I thought, well, I've signed up for this, but now this prompt is probably, I'm just going to stare at it and nothing's going to happen. And instead, it got my brain to actually think again about stories. And then it got me back into writing more frequently. So it really unlocked that part of my brain again. And yeah, and I found both times just really exciting. And actually the second time that I participated, a friend of mine also participated and won the poetry section of Iron Pen. She wrote this fantastic poem. I don't write poetry, but she wrote this fantastic poem that I still think about to this day.
Well, call her.
Yeah.
I love that too. We also do, this is one of our only things that's open nationally, or well, internationally, technically, if you can do that math and you want to. If you want to. And that's another really cool part about it, is that like there's no way to have it open that way and not share that widely. And that probably makes no sense if you're not inside my head. We have a reading that anyone who participates can participate in. Our award ceremony is also a reading. So you get to hear all the folks who participated who want to read. I know that reading is scary for a lot of people. Public speaking is scary. There's a lot of things going on there, but as such, it requires being a hybrid event. And I think that just makes everything a lot more inclusive and fun. And you're like, oh, somebody went over here with this idea that never would have occurred to me. That's generally how I feel about poets in general.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like attending the reading and hearing the way people have responded to the prompt in nonfiction was so cool to me, because that was another, I maybe shoehorn myself a little bit, but especially with prompts, I am very much in awe of the people who write nonfiction based on prompts, and the stories that they weave out of them are just so incredible. My parents always come into these readings as well, and there was a nonfiction piece a couple of years ago, I think the last time I did Iron Pen, that they still talk about. And they still are like, that was an incredible piece. She did such a good job. And it just like, it stuck with them. And so I think the things that you read just affect people and, influence and stay in their hearts in a way that you might not even know, just because you got to read your piece onto a Zoom call and
I
maybe somebody was listening. Yeah.
We'll have to, I'll quiz you about that later, see if I can find the person.
Oh, yes.
So if somebody told me that about myself, I would cry. I remember you too? What did I do? So I'm not a prompt person either. And I think that's also why I get some joy out of this. I think prompt people are magic. On the spot, you do a workshop or whatever, and they ask you to, there's a cat here. I realize I'm not looking at the camera. And you do a workshop or whatever, and you write in that class, and they're like, who wants to share? And I'm like, never, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not generating anything that I want you to see, which it doesn't matter really, if it's good or bad or whatever. But the thing about having a prompt and forcing yourself to participate in the prompt, which I do in classes, it's just it needs a little massaging afterwards, is that you are coming up with something though, even if it needs massaging, even if the idea you didn't get to your thesis until page 2 or 3, or I guess you could probably write a lot in 24 hours, but I can't.
Yeah.
I don't I don't work that way. Is that it is productive. And I'm always saying this, and I apologize if I've said it 100 times to you or on Write More Light or to, I say it a lot, but anytime I go to a writer event, whatever that means, I am more productive as a writer. I'm more creative, I'm more excited, and I am writing more. And that's the magic for me.
Absolutely. It gets you first and foremost to write, which is the most important thing. And I think, yeah, prompts are, I've always found them so hard. At the same time, because it's 24 hours, you kind of have to settle on something and then just see where it takes you. And the way in which you can take your story will probably surprise you. It's definitely surprised me the way the stories ended up going. But I feel like people look at the 24 hours and think that's not enough time. Like that is so quick. But really, I think I wrote most of the stories in 2, 3 hours and then had time to edit and to really look back and think, okay, where is this story going? So I almost felt like it was the perfect amount of time with the prompts to really consider all of the angles. Because again, if I had spent any more time with it, probably would have second guessed myself, probably would have ended up writing something completely new or scrapped what I had that was actually good in the first place. You know, all sorts of ways that you can go wrong with that. But yeah, and it's reading out my work afterwards as well is, I feel like, such a good way for me to continue to work with what I have written. Because by reading it out loud, you kind of interact with your words in a way that maybe as writers we're not as used to. I certainly don't read my stuff out loud every time. Like every time I've been in a workshop, like you said, they say, want volunteers to read? No, absolutely not. I will not be reading. Thank you.
I want to. I'm not
Yeah.
shy in that way. But some people just like, they sit down and magic comes out. And I sit down
Yes.
and it's a journal entry. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I have I have said that too about like writer's block in particular, that like a lot of the times what's happening is an emotional block and what I need to do is journal before I can write. But like that's not really the setting.
Right.
But regarding that deadline, I kind of don't function without a deadline screaming in my face.
Yes.
And I didn't ever consider that when I started participating in Iron Pen because I like the writing center. Like that's kind of it. I was like, you know what? If Ryan thinks it's a good idea, it's probably a good idea. Um, and I didn't consider how much I need deadlines at the time. I was young and naive. Um, but honestly, that fake pressure, that imposed pressure is everything.
Yes.
Um,
Really does wonders.
I know you don't yet know the prompt. 'Cause I don't yet know the prompt. And no one will. Nobody will know until 5 p.m. on tomorrow. But are you having any feelings about being a judge?
I'm very excited because I've obviously been on the other side of just getting to write and then send it in, and then you just kind of get to wait with your hands clasped and go, "Ooh, what happened?" But I'm really excited to see the other end of this and to read how many ways people can explore a prompt and how amazingly creative people are. I'm so excited to see how everybody responds and excited to read the pieces, both short and long, and however much people are able to write. And yeah, and I always find the prompts are so they're wide enough that you can really do anything with them. And because this is such a broad, it's also a broad category, you know, you can get any kind of genre within that, really. So I love seeing how people interpret the same thing so differently. And I'm just really excited to read everybody's work.
For context, for folks who are like, Sarah, this is clearly your friend. It's because I love Friends. Um, every time we every year we ask a previous winner, usually the last year's winner, to judge the category that they won in. Last year's fiction winner did not want to judge. So we went back some years. So this isn't a situation like that. I've never judged fiction, by the way. And everything is judged completely blind. Ryan also does not judge. Ryan puts everything blind. Everybody's got a letter and a number, and that's the entry that you are is, you know, A12 or whatever. Yeah, so the idea behind asking the previous winner to be the judge is that we're not giving anyone an unfair advantage. Like, I don't think it's really ever happened that somebody wins every single year in a category, but it sure would suck if that happened.
Yeah.
And also we're you know, increasing our involvement. We want people to be involved on both sides if they want to be involved on both sides. But yeah, Hannah is our fiction judge because Hannah has won in fiction. I've judged nonfiction twice. Once when someone dropped out, and once when I was the last year's winner. Um, I've never judged fiction. I've never judged poetry. I am glad for that. I don't think I would be great at that, which is also the other thing that makes sense. Like if this is your sweet spot and what you write and what you love, presumably you'll be good at reading it. Yeah, what am I missing? Can you think of things I'm missing?
I was just going to add that I have never submitted in anything besides fiction. So I would be equally like completely unable to do nonfiction or poetry because that's just not things that I write. But yeah, the fiction is definitely my one and only category when it comes to Iron Pen. Yeah, that was all. It was just a
There's something else I wanted to add. I put the registration link in the video. And we've got, so this is one of the only things we do that costs money. Let me rephrase. Everything we do ordinarily comes with scholarship and discount opportunities. This is one of the only things that we do that always costs money. It is only $10, and you know, winners receive $50, and everyone has the opportunity to win free tuition to the conference, which is obviously very cool. That actually, one year when I did not, I mean, I'm not proud of the piece I came up with that year, but I did not place, but I did win the tuition to the conference, and that's the only reason I was able to go to the conference. I was very poor and did not realize I could ask for a scholarship. And that got me on the track. That got me on the track to getting back into writing. It's just being in being able to win that and then being in that environment. And I just realized another fun Iron Pen fact. One of our authors, do I have it accessible? I do. Okay. One of our authors, Shishwin Collins, her first involvement in writing in, you know, like outside of the privacy of herself, was the Iron Pen contest. And now, I mean, she's querying agents right now for her second novel, but we published her first book. It's incredible. You should read it. God, it's so good. It's an intergenerational story about women in China. Shishwen is Chinese. It's so good. She's so talented, and it's so hard for me to believe that like there was a time in her life where she didn't consider herself a writer, and that was like in recent history in my world. And Iron Pen was the thing that made her, and she's on record saying this, I'm not like making this up. Iron Pen's the thing that made her say, maybe I can do this. Very cool. I don't even know if she won.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she did. She's very talented, but I don't know if she won. I know that she participated and found out she could write. It's really cool.
Which is so cool because it really shows the versatility of Iron Pen. You know, you can walk in thinking maybe I'm not that good of a writer and come out and go, no, actually I am.
Yeah,
I
right.
am actually really good at this. I think this is something I can do.
And just this is back to me being, I mean, I write fiction, but apparently not well on a 10 or in the with the prompt, whatever it is. But the idea that somebody can use their imagination and just like have ideas, really incredible for me. Okay, some bonus facts about I'm gonna share my screen again. Some bonus facts about Iron Pen. Here's the registration page. I put the link in the chat, but it's just mwcqc.org. I'm pretty sure it's /events/Iron Pen, and that's a really long-winded URL there. But you can enter as many times as you like. That's something to note in whatever genres you like. But we do want to know what genres. If you end up like changing your mind, you have to write us or we will put your submission in the wrong category. But we do want to note there is a word limit for fiction. This is Carter. Hi. Fiction and nonfiction, because two things. There's a lot to read. So we ask you to stop at 2,000 words. That was not at me. That was at the invisible cat that is to my left. He's not invisible, you just can't see him. It's a lot for our judges to read, for one thing, and those are the categories that fiction in particular gets the most entries. So yeah, that's good to know. Second and third place winners will also get prizes. Honorable mentions and winners have the opportunity to publish with us. Yeah, this is what the website looks like. You should visit our website. It's very cute.
It is very cute. Can confirm.
I've seen it.
I have seen the website. I rate it 10 out of 10.
That's a little generous. It's all right. We're working on a revamp. We've got a new one in the I don't know, coming up.
The works.
In the works. It's in, I was gonna say like on deck, but I said in the, didn't, no.
In the
At
deck,
that,
under the floorboards.
Yeah. I guess that's all I've got. I already asked you lots of questions. Because you're a long form writer, so am I.
Yes.
Well, maybe I'm not. Maybe that's changed. So this is sort of just all sorts of a workout, and that's where the name came from. Sort of. It's yes, definitely. Not sort of. I was gonna say something else. It's from the Ironman competitions. That's why we have 24 hours to flex our muscles in writing. That's why our little Iron Pen logo is a pen lifting weights. But I always think of Iron Chef because Ryan also references that in the when he gives the prompt, because it's the secret ingredient in Iron Chef would be the prompt. So okay, that's what I was gonna say. It's called that because of cooking. No.
It's the Iron Chef.
Do you have any questions for me about Iron Pen? I feel like you know everything, but maybe I'm forgetting something that'll come out this way.
Well, I was thinking I got to talk about what I really like about Iron Pen, but what were your first experiences like with Iron Pen? Like, what was how did we don't have to revisit it.
I've had a lot of when I used to just exclusively enter in fiction. And when I think I just scratched the cover of that book with my fingernail. And when I did that, I had a lot of false starts because I have a lot of perfectionism problems. And something that was helpful to me was finding that nonfiction was the place for me because part of my perfectionism problem is like, how good is my idea? And that gets me really in my head about like my imagination. So when I switched over to nonfiction, it was like, here's how this thing is relevant to my life. And that was really helpful for me. So, and that's been helpful for me as a writer in general. So it's general writing advice is, um, if some specific area feels like it has a, there's a cat eating the ribbon of my notebook. If some specific area has a lot of pressure involved, maybe it's not, maybe switch modes a little bit for now, try it out. However, yeah, being forced to, wherever your mental state is, generate anything is the magical moment for me. There's a lot of good lessons in there about like you're allowed, and I don't know if everybody knows that, but yeah, if you end up writing something that's not the category you expected, you can write to us. Because we don't want the poetry judge to be judging fiction. Like that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I love Iron Pen.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, it gives you an opportunity to kind of flex writing muscles that you might not ordinarily get to use that much. Like you said, you and I are both more long form writers, but this forces us to kind of be less long-winded.
Don't
I think
question
can
it
get
so
very
much. Yeah,
long-winded.
you don't have the
Yeah.
option to think too hard,
Yeah.
and that's probably the best lesson. Is like, don't think too hard. Just write. Just write.
Yes. Write
And
what you can.
yeah, shoot, I had another thought. Oh, no, I didn't. I was gonna talk about how we choose prompts, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just sort of one of us has a really good idea, one of us being staff at the writing center. There are 3 of us at this moment. And sometimes it's like the Philip Levine poem was chosen because he had just died. One time we did a Ross Gay deep cut because he was, I think that was last year. It feels like it was longer ago than that. No, it was 2 years ago. Because we were going to announce at the Iron Pen reading that he was our keynote speaker at our conference. So we were like, haha, got a hint in here. But I don't know what this one is. And anyway, I can't tell you if I did.
We will all find out together at 5 p.m.
Just a little more than 24 hours from now. All right, cool. Well, thank you for hanging out with me today, Hannah, and thank you for agreeing to be our judge. I'm very excited for that. I'm guessing since you were in Northern Ireland the last couple of years, that's why we haven't seen you.
Yes, that is.
Also, when I was saying Belfast, I was like hearing you say it correctly in my head, and I was like, I'm American. So I'm gonna give a little rundown if I can get my cat off of my planner on updates at the, oh my God, he will not move. He's 20 pounds, it's fine. And
Your
by
planner
fine,
belongs to him now, actually.
it does. This is incredible. I think he's 17. He went to the vet and I clearly blocked it out on purpose. His weight. Okay, here we go. Obviously upcoming tomorrow, the Iron Pen contest. Then on still playing with it. Then this is not an MWC event, but an exciting one on Saturday at the Skeleton Key. Our friend Tom McKay, fiction author, will be doing a signing at the Skeleton Key in Rock Island. That's in association with the Artsy Bookworm. Tom's a really good guy and a really talented writer, and absolutely worth going to that event. Let's see. We're going to be hanging out at the Best Bettendorf School District next week, but you are not invited to that if you are not part of the Bettendorf School District. March 6th, we have an event with the Davenport Public Library. That'll be at the Eastern Bridge, I think. Nope, Fairmount. Good thing I read the things I write down. That'll be at the Fairmount branch, which is on Fairmount. In Davenport, it'll be an author talk. We're doing a series once a month with the Davenport Public Library on publishing. This one will be about submissions-based and independent press publishing. We will have authors Misty Urban, fiction writer, and poet Emily Kingery at that one. That again is March 6th. That's Wednesday after next Wednesday. Wednesday after next. 6 p.m. Davenport Public Library, Fairmont. We are still meeting with our Illinois Humanities Book Group, reading the book Heartland by Sarah Smarsh. Our second meeting at which we will discuss the second half of the book Heartland is March 8th at 4 p.m. at the Writing Center. If you want to get involved with that, you can contact me. I run our socials and my email address is all over the place, but I'll throw it in the comments here. We have books that we are able to give you if you want to be part of this group. But again, we will have finished the book Heartland on the 8th, and we'll be discussing it then. Not a lot of pressure to have entirely finished it, but if you want to be caught up on the conversation, that's useful. We'll also be announcing winners for Iron Pen on March 6th. I just didn't read that part of the planner because I don't usually have plans at 6 a.m. It's just really a header. And then the reading for Iron Pen and the winners, and announcing the prize winner for the conference tuition will be Saturday, March 9th. That'll be at the Rock Island Public Library and online at noon. And then the next exciting thing for the month of March, and the final thing that I will give an announcement about at this moment, is he's having a really good time. He likes strings. Is March 13th. We have our fiction workshop with Jeffrey Wolf, or it's a prose workshop with Jeffrey Wolf. I keep calling it fiction because he is a fiction professor at Columbia College. And it is about time, movement, and memory. It's going to be really, really cool because I've read and seen Jeffrey read some of his work, and the way it deals with time and memory and how that relates to your story or your plot or structure shows that he really has an understanding of how that works. And so it's going to be really helpful for working on your own work if particularly time and memory are relevant elements to that. So that'll be that'll be over Zoom workshop. It's $25 for MWC members and $35 for non-members. And Jeffrey's really cool. I've got some interviews with him on Write More Light, and we've got his reading from when he was the winner of the Great River Writers Retreat. Those are on our YouTube channel. Probably link them a little later. Yeah, stay in touch, friends. Oh, also, we're still doing Writers Studio every first and third Saturday of the month, both online and in person. Those are two separate groups from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. Details on that are all over the place as well. Whew. Okay, that is my spiel. Thank you everybody for watching us. Thank you for registering for the Iron Pen contest, and thank you, Hannah, for hanging out. Please, as always, write more light into your life.